Hey guys, so today we're going to be starting our Out My Window poem. We've been practicing figurative language all week just for this poem. So, this is how it's going to work. Step one, you guys are going to choose a window to inspire your poem. Step two is you're going to brainstorm figurative language and imagery for your poem, and that portion is for a grade. And then also for a grade is step three, which is where you'll write your poem. So let's take a look at slide 3. This is how you're going to be graded. So you're going to be graded 20 points for poetry elements, which are your stanzas, your figurative language, and the theme. There's 20 points for personification. So that's one type of figurative language you're going to be using, which is where you give human qualities to what is seen outside of that window. 20 points for simile, which is where you're going to compare what is seen outside the window with something else using like as. Then we have 20 points for imagery, which is where you use your sight, hearing, and touch to describe what is seen out of that window. And you'll see an example of this in the coming slides. And then you have 10 points for writing at least 10 lines with stanzas. So you need at least 10. You can write more if you'd like to, but we need at least 10. And then 10 points for effort, so your grammar, creativity. A lot of times we turn in assignments with a bunch of red lines under words that are misspelled, so we're looking for that. Make sure that those are corrected and we don't see a lot of squiggly and that your poem is creative. And that's where that 10 points come from. So the instructions are, you're going to choose a window on slide 5, which we'll get to. You're going to write a poem to show what you see. Think of all 5 senses and how you can paint a picture with your words to show what is out your window. For this particular poem, we're going to be looking at 3 senses, and I'll show you what those are. I need you to remember that a poem does not have to rhyme. Be specific and descriptive. So instead of writing something like a busy street, consider writing cars crawl down the black asphalt like a giant snake. That's more descriptive than just saying a busy street. And then you're going to use figurative language like similes, personification, onomatopoeia, and hyperbole to help the reader imagine what you see. So let's take a look at step 1. Step 1 is your window. So on the next slide, you're going to choose one window to write your poem about and type the number of that window at the bottom of slide 5. So here's slide 5. You have 3 window choices. So you have the red one, the blue one, and the purple one. So look at these 3 choices and you'll choose which window you want to write your poem about. So if you want to do window 1, you'll click here, you'll type window 1 so that I know what window you're using. If you don't like any of these windows and you want to find one of your own, you can delete them all and you can put a window of your own, or you can put a window that you're looking out of. But you have these 3 choices to choose from if you can't find one. After you choose your window, we move on to step 2, which is brainstorm. So we're going to use imagery on this using your senses, and then figurative language that we're focusing on is personification and similes. So let's look at the chart that we're going to use to brainstorm. So the second column are your senses. The third column, we're going to create a simile, and then the fourth column, we're going to create personification. So the 3 senses we're going to focus on are sight, hearing, and feeling. So for sight, what do you see outside of your window? Hearing, what do you hear outside of your window? And feeling, what do you feel outside of your window? So let's take a look at the example provided. So in this case, we are talking about a roller coaster. So if we're talking about a roller coaster, then it's something that we see. So we're looking at sight. So we see a roller coaster. So let's create a simile of what we see. The roller coaster curved around like a snake, winding its way across my view. So that's our simile. We're comparing the roller coaster that we saw to a snake using like, and that's our simile. So when you get ready to do yours, you'll tell us what you see and you'll type it here. And then in the second box, you'll create a simile. What are you going to compare it to? So also for the roller coaster, we did some personification. The roller coaster teased us with each click of the cars going up the hill. Teasing is a human quality. Roller coasters can't tease. So this is personification. Remember that personification is giving human qualities to something that's not human. So for your boxes, you're going to type what you see, what you hear, and what you feel outside of your window. So you'll type that thing. So if you see birds, you'll type birds. And then in the second box, you'll create your simile. So what are you going to compare the birds to so that you can describe it to us better? You'll type what you hear, you'll type what you feel, and do the same thing. Try not to repeat the same. Don't put birds, birds, birds for all three. Try to do something different. If you have trouble on this part, you can always ask for clarification or help, and we'll help you with that. But you do have the examples provided at the top. Okay, step 3, you're going to write your poem. So once again, we have a copy of the instructions and the rubric of what you're going to be graded on, just in case you need to look over it. And then on slide 10, we have an example. So we did read the poem called 4 Skinny Trees. So this is a copy of that poem, using the same things you guys are going to use in yours. So making sure that it has 10 lines or more. This has way more than 10 lines, so we put a check. Then we're going to make sure we have different stanzas. So since yours only needs 10 lines, you can do 2 stanzas, but make sure they're separated. Remember, stanzas are kind of like paragraphs for poetry, so you can do it that way. Then we're going to look for your personification, and in this case, 4 skinny trees with skinny necks and pointy elbows like mine. Trees don't have pointy elbows or skinny necks, so that's personifying. We're giving human qualities to something that's not human. So we highlighted that to show, here's our personification. Okay? You don't necessarily have to highlight, but this is just showing you that the poem includes it. Right here, from our room, we can hear them. That's imagery. I'm telling what we can, the author's telling what they can hear. Then we have another example personification. They grow up and they grow down. They grab the earth with their hairy toes and bite the sky. They can't bite. They can't grab. And they don't have anger. Those are human qualities that we're giving to something that's not human. And then we have an example of a simile. They all droop like tulips in a glass. We're comparing the trees to tulips in a glass using light. And then we have some more examples of imagery. Each one with their arms around each other, so we can imagine that. So we're seeing against so many bricks, we can see those things. So those are just some examples of how you can change your poem and add to it to make it more descriptive so that we can imagine and picture what you're talking about in your poem. So then when we get to slide 11, this is where you're going to start your poem. Remember, you need at least 10 lines. So that's the minimum. You can type more if you need to. Remember, you need to include stanzas. You can do 2 stanzas of 5 lines each. That would probably be the easiest, or you can break it up how you want. Make sure you're including personification, similes, your sight, hearing, and touch, which all comes from your chart on slide 7. So you're using the similes and the personification because it's all based on your window. And then make sure it's creative, and make sure you check for grammar, which means those squiggly red lines. Alright, so just know that you are using the brainstorming on slide 7 to help you. And if you need any additional help, you can always reach out to me or Mrs. Garza. Alright, happy learning.